To this, another episode of A Million Little TV Shows podcast. This is where we break down and discuss episodes of TV shows that you may not have even heard of. I believe these TV shows need a little more love, and that is what this platform is here to do. Each week we will be covering different shows from all over the globe. We'll be breaking down each episode, giving you the main highlights, and going through it bit by bit. But for now, I think it's best that we find out what's on the menu today. Hello there, and welcome back to this A Million Little TV Shows podcast. This is now episode 10 of season 7, and today we're going to be covering something with very emotional heft. In fact, I've only just watched the first episode, and I am already feeling it. So I need to get into this show because it's so good. It's affected me quite a lot, and I've actually spoke about this show in therapy before because the subject line behind it meant so much to me and my actual journey. And a lot of the themes that are in it are of heartache and heartbreak. And as you know, I'm single and I have felt quite a bit of both heartache and heartbreak over my time. And so I wanted to get into it. I think it's a great show, and I think it just really hits home when you actually watch it. In fact, you don't even have to watch it. Just the opening soundtrack got me enough. I was even singing along to it, but it breaks my heart because the song is From Eden by Hosier, and it's such a good song, but really, really heart-wrenching and stirs up a lot of memories for me and a lot of feelings for me in and around this show and in and around my own life. But anyway, instead of just rambling on about it, I should really just introduce the show and get onto it. So this is a mini-series called Northern Lights, and today I'm going to be covering episodes 1 to 3. The episode stars Stephen Jones as Lloyd, Elva Trill as Anya, Jennifer Halen as Denise, and Jay Duffy as Sean. Episode 1. So it seems like this whole series takes place in Dublin. And straight away we meet Lloyd. It is absolutely pouring with rain outside, and he is heading across town to go and see his friend play at a bar. As he walks in, his friend dedicates a song to him, and as soon as he hears the first few chords, he can't take it and he walks out. You can see that there is just something not right with him. He doesn't seem himself, and as he walks back across town, he walks over a bridge near his home. Standing on that bridge is a red-headed woman. We've also seen her walking through the rain and just not seeming to even notice it's there. Lloyd goes to the shop and buys some wine and heads back home. But when he does, this time he actually notices this woman. She's standing on the bridge and looking over at the water. He stops as if he's going to say something, but just carries on and heads home. His flat, however, overlooks this bridge, and after a while of this wild, crazy rain, he looks out into the night again, and still it's pouring rain, and still this woman is stood there. He heads out and he goes and talks to her, and he finds out her name is Anya. He asks if she's okay and just tries to be a genuine, sweet guy. But obviously, knowing the world we live in, he has to keep reassuring her that he's not a bad person, which is unfortunate in the times that we live in, that we have to do that. He tells her that he's seen her earlier and that it seems like it's a long time for her to have been stood out here. She tells him not to worry and that she's not going to jump, but when he says he lives nearby, she asks whether she can just come in to get out of the rain. After the usual kind of, you're not a psycho, are you? You're not going to kill me. You're not going to try and attack me or anything. Coming from both of them, they head up to Lloyd's flat. They sit and begin to talk about just general chit chat, just kind of getting to know each other a little bit and not really talking about anything in true depth, just random things. Lloyd is constantly joking, trying to make Anya laugh, but it seems that every time he tells one of his terrible dad jokes, it's almost as if he forgets himself because he ends up telling something that's inappropriate to someone he's just really met. And not only that, a woman who he has brought back to his flat. As the night wears on, we keep getting clips of things that have happened in these two characters' past. Lloyd, for instance, has a girlfriend called Denise, and as he is talking about her, he tells Anya that she's away at the minute. She's in Spain doing a trail called Camino, which is a walking trail which will take around about a month before it's complete. But we have no context as to why she's out there yet. When we see Denise, we actually see her that she's on the trail and she seems quite happy with what's going on. But there is a sadness with her as well. Something there just isn't right. And she's also sent Lloyd a text because it seems like they are in the final days of their relationship. Or at least that's the way Denise sees it. She sends him a text message saying basically that sometimes the most beautiful of beginnings start with an end. And we can only read into that she feels that their relationship's at an end point, whereas Lloyd doesn't want to give up on this yet. We see little glimpses of how Denise and Lloyd met. Lloyd is a big lover of karaoke, and that is how they met. He has a club, which is basically just all his friends get together and hang out and basically just sing songs. But because it is a club, sometimes they have new members, and Denise was one of those members. She took a liking to him straight away, and as time went on, they seemed to end up dating, but it seems whatever happened to them, they were having struggles before they went. And it may be because of the fact that when they just started dating, Denise told Lloyd that she didn't ever want to have kids. Lloyd was unsure how to take this news, and it seems like he was okay with it, but you could see that he'd always thought about having them. And because of that, it may have caused friction between them. We're not sure how long he and Denise were actually dating, but as things got further down the line, you can imagine that became a bone of contention between the two of them. And so maybe that's why they split. Anya, however, has her own story to tell. She seems to be a bit of a fuck up, a bit of a mess. She's all over the place at times. And her boyfriend Sean, who still lives with his parents at this point, seems to be at a point where, as much as he loves Anya, because you can see it in his face, he may not be in love with her anymore, just due to all the antics that she gets up to. In fact, at one point she turns up in his room in the middle of the night, pissed out of her face, stumbling all over, and wakes the whole house up. She and Sean end up arguing and she tries to walk away, but when he doesn't follow her like she expected him to, she comes crawling back. They get into bed together and you can see that he loves her, but there's just something not right there either. You see that he can seem like the life and soul of the party and they're crazy about each other. But we obviously know that something is amiss with him. Lloyd speaks to Anya later on and he asks her what was going on. Why was she stood there all night? It was a very strange behaviour and it seems like she doesn't want to go home to her parents' home because they've also had words. Anya tells him that she wasn't going to jump from the bridge, but she knows someone who has. In that exact spot where she was stood months earlier, her boyfriend Sean jumped. You can see that Lloyd's shocked by this, but also he asks her how long ago it was, and she tells him literally a couple of months ago. He's shocked and gutted and tells her that he saw him on the day that he died. He saw him. And it seems on that day he did exactly the same as what he did with Anya. He walked straight past. He looked, but he walked straight past. And we're not sure how long Sean was actually there for, but it would seem that that was the night that he killed himself. And so now Lloyd and Anya are in this flat together and there's questions that are going to be asked. Episode 2. And so we get a brief glimpse into the recent past of Anya. And it seems that she's a hairdresser. And while she's at work one day, she gets a call from Sean's mum. Sean hasn't been home in 24 hours. He actually went for a run the day before and he hasn't been back yet. Anya is able to take the day off and go search for him. She goes out with her dad and tries to find any information on where he possibly could be, whether he stayed at a mate's or whatever. They keep trying to call his phone, but they just get no answer. And they're really starting to worry about him due to the way that he's been lately. He's been really off. Eventually, Anya gets a call from his mum again, and she tells him that he's home. She heads over and immediately fires up at him. She has a very fiery temper on her, and she certainly does the red hair that she's dyed justice. I've known a few redheads in my time, and they definitely live up to the hype. But once she actually sees Sean, she can see how broken he is. Nobody at this point has any clue what is really wrong with him, but you can just see how depressed he is. Something is not right. And he ends up going into hospital for it, because they're afraid of what he's going to do, and he's not in a great place. While he's in hospital, obviously, he's advised to start getting rid of things that are toxic in his life. Things like fast food, drink, doing more exercise, the usual things that you're told you need to get better. And so he starts a regime, getting rid of booze, getting rid of fast food, and he seems to be on the up and up, but obviously it's a process. And as much as Anya wants to support him, there's certain times that this is frustrating. She also feels like sometimes she is the cause of his issues. And at the time, because she doesn't want this to end, and she certainly doesn't want to keep hurting him, she needs constant reassurance that she isn't the problem, which could be exacerbating the problem. However, the next day they wake up and they're in Lloyd's flat. They didn't manage to discuss what had happened the previous night when Lloyd told her about the fact that he saw Sean on the night that he died. Lloyd offers to take Anya for breakfast because it's Saturday, he doesn't have to be in work, and she hasn't said anything about being in work. And so they both head out and go and grab something to eat. While they're there, however, Anya gets a phone call, basically telling her that if she needs a day, they can cover her today. So basically she doesn't have to go into work. She asks Lloyd what he's going to be up to, and at this point he's unsure. He's not really got anything planned, and so they end up spending the day together, just walking around the town and just chatting about everything. It's at this point that Lloyd learns what she does for a living. She tells him that she's a hairdresser, but she tells him that that isn't always what she wanted to do, and certainly isn't what she wants to do forever. He asks, what kind of things would you like to do? And she tells him that she's always been a good storyteller, and especially children's stories, and that maybe one day she would write a really great story for kids. She tells him that she used to do all that kind of stuff with Sean's nephew, and that it just really made her happy doing that kind of thing. But as we keep seeing these glimpses into her past, we can see that Sean is potentially bipolar. His moods peak and trough at all times, and he is up one moment and down the next. And so we keep seeing that he is really struggling to regulate his moods, which is an issue for Anya because, like I've said, she's got this fiery temper and she doesn't understand what's going on. And of course, he can't really talk about what's going on because he doesn't understand it himself. And so the more that he can't understand, the more she can't understand, and it's not ideal. And it's hurting her, but it's hurting him as well, because all he wants to do is be with her. They've been out for a run earlier on in the episode, and you see when she asks about, is it her? He doesn't even answer her. He just holds her, knowing that the smile on his face means that it isn't her at all. But prior to that, he was basically saying that she could find anyone better because he doesn't feel good enough and he doesn't feel like he's worthy of her. And I suppose that's the depression of it all. The amount of times I've been in a relationship where I don't feel good enough for the person that I'm with. And as much as they want to tell me till they're blue in the face, nothing convinces. It's probably why I'm in the situation I'm now in. But we can see that both of them are lost in this relationship when it comes to whatever's going on with Sean. And as much as the good days are good, the bad days are really bad by the looks of things. Once again, as much as Lloyd is trying to help Anya, he can't help but say the wrong thing. And occasionally he just keeps putting his foot in it. And every time that he does, she'll snap at him or she'll blow up at him. So for instance, when Lloyd says that Sean must have been feeling so alone at the time when he was about to kill himself, Anya blows up. She says he wasn't alone. He had me. He had his family. She even tells Lloyd that the weights in the bag that weighed him down had been given to him by her father, and that her father couldn't even process the fact that he killed himself, and in a way he'd assisted in that. We see the scene where he gives him the weights, hoping that this will give him the positivity and give him the help that he needs, and all it ended up doing was being the thing that ended his life. Lloyd, however, is, like I say, dealing with his own shit. We see Denise out on the trail, and although in the first episode it seemed that she was quite friendly with the people that she's walking with, when she actually starts talking with this woman, Karen, a hippie, and Karen's trying to give her all the peace, love and prosperity stuff, Denise blows up at her. And by the sounds of things, before she left for Spain, Denise lost someone. And later on in the episode, we actually see potentially who it was that she lost. Because while Lloyd is making dinner for her, and they're obviously in that bad place at the point that he's making this dinner, he looks out the window and sees her on the same bridge where Sean was. However, she's talking to someone. When Lloyd tries to ring her, she doesn't answer. Eventually, when she does answer, she tells him a lie, and he tells her, "I can see you right now." She rushes over and she tells him about Sean, and it's the same Sean that we know from the story. She tells him that he's in a bad way and they bumped into each other and they got chatting, but he's gutted because she can't talk to him, but she can talk to some stranger. And then eventually, when Sean ends up dying, Denise seems to take it quite hard. So maybe there was a friendship or a kinship there between the two of them, but we don't know. We don't know what's been going on yet. But maybe that's why she's in Spain. Episode 3. So we begin to get a better picture of what type of person Sean is, especially when he's around Anya. The episode starts with them discussing a bucket list, or as Sean calls it, a fuck it list. And it's obviously just things that he wants to do with his life before he dies. A few of the suggestions are kind of corny, but one thing that he really wants to do is go to Iceland and see the Northern Lights. And that's why in the previous episode we saw that he bought a ticket for both him and Anya to go to Iceland just to do that. The problem was that this trip was planned a week before he died. So Sean had booked all this, got it all sorted, and in a week he was dead. And that's obviously one of the things that they always say, that generally people don't start planning stuff if they know that they're going to end their life. So it would seem that Sean was on the up and up until he wasn't. And so throughout the episode we keep seeing Anya's grief and how she dealt with it throughout the funeral, the lead up to it, and the aftermath. While she's out and about with Lloyd, she actually finds a piece of paper in her pocket which was something that she wrote leading up to his funeral. She was trying to put into words who Sean was, because she was going to give a eulogy while she was at the church. Being his partner and all, it would make sense, but obviously being his partner doesn't always make it that easy. She sits and thinks about these moments during the episode because it's all she's got to cling on to. The episode is mostly about Lloyd. He is trying to cheer Anya up, or at least take her mind off everything, because she is literally trying to distract herself from all of this. And so he's telling her the story which she's asked him about, and that is the story of him and Denise and how they actually got together. But Anya, you can see that she had a really tough time of everything. She doesn't know how to put into words the life that she had with Sean. And we see when she's talking to Lloyd that they've been together a long time. Or at least they've been in each other's lives a long time, since they were kids. So I'm going to say she's around about 27 in this. And they may have been around each other for around 20 years. So she's obviously having a really tough time of it. She lost her best friend, her boyfriend, and the person that she thought that she would spend the rest of her life with and probably have kids with and family and all that. And now not to be able to see that person every day, but still see that person in your head every day. It's hard. It's really hard. I hate not having that one person in my life that should really be here. But I messed it up big time. And so I do feel the pain of this episode. I mean, thankfully that person didn't die, but not being able to see them is almost as bad. And then after everything that happened with Sean's funeral, where she literally just froze. She couldn't say a word. She was up there at the lectern and just couldn't get any words out. She felt like she needed something, someone, anything. And when she sees one of their friends heading off into the bathroom, she follows him in there and ends up doing coke with him. But when she really needs that comfort, she tries to kiss him, and obviously he rejects her. So now, feeling like more of a fuck up than ever, she heads outside, and his mother has seen the whole thing. And by his mother, I mean Sean's mother. And so she calls Anya all names under the sun. And now Anya feels like more of a failure than ever, especially when it came to Sean. And she feels like she's the one who really drove him to where he was and where he is now, which is a shitty feeling, knowing that you've impacted someone's life so much that they've done something drastic. I mean, God, I've done it, and I know that person's still alive. So to have someone who isn't, thankfully I'm on good terms with them now, and we chat quite a lot, and I love that person to bits, but it's hard, really is hard. To think I've ever lost that person really sucks. And then we'll get on to Lloyd. So like I say, Lloyd is basically there to distract Anya from what's going on. And so he is telling the story of him and Denise and how they met. Essentially, we saw how they met. It was at this club where they do karaoke. But they actually went out on tour because they did competitions and things like that. So this whole karaoke club went out on tour and Denise was with them. Denise was one of the competitors in this, and her and Lloyd ended up doing a duet together. However, at the time, she was seeing someone, but after her and Lloyd managed to get some private moments together, nothing happened, but she ended up not being with that person anymore, and her and Lloyd ended up getting together from that. And it seems really romantic and really sweet and kind, and such a great way to actually start a relationship. It seems like a really nice initial story to tell. Like, it's one of those I could tell my grandkids about, but we just don't know why it's broken apart and why it's in such a devastating place. And we see that whatever it is has really, really started to affect Denise. Whatever it was, whatever happened between the two of them, we're unsure yet. But we know that someone has died, or Denise has lost someone, and she couldn't take it anymore and had to leave. Again, the only person that we know that's been lost in this show was Sean, and so we can only imagine that Sean and Denise were connected at some point, but we don't know how yet. So as I've said, this show is really hard hitting for me, but I love it. The acting in it's great. Like, the two characters, Anya and Lloyd, just bounce off each other really well. They've got really good chemistry. Anya is incredible. I think Elva Trill is just amazing in this. And then you've got Stephen Jones on the other side of this as Lloyd, and he's just this goofy comic at all times, but he's so good in that role. And I do see a lot of myself in him when I actually see him portraying this role, because I'm the same. Some of the jokes that he makes, it's very much like Gary from A Million Little Things. He makes gaffes all the time, he makes jokes all the time. They're either really bad or fucking really bad, but he gets a kick out of them, and I'm the same. I can see it. And being able to make people laugh the way that he can, even though they're bad jokes, people laugh at him. And the amount of times that I've been sat with someone making them laugh or doing something goofy or whatever, and just reeled off something banter after banter after banter, and they've gone, like, have you got a Rolodex of these in your head? And that's something that Anya says, because he's constantly coming up with these really bad jokes or these really stupid comments or really bad puns. And she's like, do you store all these in your head at all times? Because this is ridiculous. But he's making her laugh. And that's what I try to do. I try to make people laugh, whether it's just eye rolls or what. But yeah, this show is really, really good. I've fallen in love with both characters again. I think they're both great. I think Denise is phenomenal as well. And Sean is, I feel so sorry for him at all times. I think on the lead up to this show as well, throughout the podcast, I've been saying that it's Dutch. It's not Dutch, it's Belgium, so I apologise for that. But I think the acting performances from the front four are so strong, and it's all acted in the small space again, like I keep saying that I like, where it's just two characters together, or there's no vastness to it. I mean, I'm a massive fan of the MCU, and having different sprawling narratives throughout is fucking incredible, but when it's just tight and it's just a small format and it just really grips me, I think it's amazing. And when the characters or when the actual actors have such chemistry together, I can't fault that one bit. And so this is my second time watching this series this year, and it just doesn't lose its charm. Speaking of charm, both of them have got it in abundance. They're both Irish for a start, which, I mean, that accent is incredible anyway. And then they're both just bantering off each other. And it's just really well put together. I really do like this show. It makes me smile. It makes me sad. God, it makes my heart break. But if you haven't watched it, watch it, because it's fucking excellent. But we're not going to be picking this up for another week. So next week, I'm going to talk about the baby. And hopefully, when we get to the final episode, you'll see why I picked Northern Lights and the baby to be together. There is a reason. And I just hope you like both shows, because they're both great. But as for today, I'm done. So I hope you're all doing well out there. Thank you if you have come over and subscribed to Patreon. That is amazing. I'm so thrilled. Things are going quite well over there. So I hope you're all doing well. But until next time, I will speak to you soon. Bye. And that is it for now, amigos. And yes, I am as angry as you are at me for that sentence, but I hope you enjoyed the show and had some fun along the way. It means a lot that you are listening and supporting me. This is an independent podcast after all, and it doesn't get a lot of backing, so it is great to know that you're out there, you're listening. And if you want to come talk to me on any of the platforms I'm on, just come say hi. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, and I'm even a little bit on TikTok. I don't post that much, but I'm on there. And you can also drop comments in the comment sections on any of the platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, wherever you get your podcasts from. But as always, thank you for your time, and I will speak to you soon.